All right, good morning, everyone. I thought I would take just a few minutes to share something um, that happened this past weekend. One of the things that I wanted to share with you happened on Saturday, and the other one happened. It was like maybe Thursday or Friday, and it has to do with um, God using you right where you are in your place of employment to share the gospel. And I was going to talk about this on Saturday, and then I got the notification that Bill went live with his Dumb and Dumber live streaming of Matthias and Ryan. And so I was like, okay, I'll just go ahead and watch this, and if I feel the Lord wants me to go ahead and share these two things that happened, I can always do this at another time. And so um, what happened? The first one was earlier in the week, last week. Picked up a woman from the airport. I was in queue at the airport, and then went to pick her up, and she was here on business, and we started talking about her business trip that she works for. She's like a head nurse for um, many of the Catholic hospitals. There's like several Catholic hospitals that are like in a group, and she was telling me a little bit about the history going back to like the nuns that first started the Catholic hospitals, which this was information that I didn't know. Now, she wasn't Catholic. She asked if I was Catholic, and I said no, that I was Protestant, and she said that that she was Protestant as well. And so we talked about that for a little bit, and then just because I could tell just by some of the things that she was saying about her upbringing, and really reading the Bible. I remembered that there's a verse, and I've got to look it up because I read it not too long ago, and I think I was in a hangout like with Bill and Ted, or some of the other brothers, about, and if I recall correctly, this was Jesus speaking about that we have angels that guard us. And she's like, really? And I said yeah. And I said, I didn't know that before reading it. And I told her that I had just been studying my Bible and reading, and I came across it, and she's like, well, I'm gonna have to look that up, because sometimes there's I don't know, what would you call it, you hear the term, well, my guardian angel was watching out for me. Well, no, this is real. And I talked about Jesus telling about Abraham's bosom, that in Luke 16, that he said that the angel, when Lazarus died, that the angels carried um Lazarus to Abraham's bosom. But I told her it wasn't that passage. It was another passage where Jesus was talking about angels that guard us. And how I read the passage was like, they're there to help protect us. And I've always believed this, but Jesus saying it himself, I mean, it really gives credence. And so that was really intriguing to her. And I didn't know much about like what kind of upbringing she had in church, but I did share that I'm would be considered like non-denominational, that I'm grace, that I believe that salvation is a gift, that it's through, grace alone, through Christ alone, that you don't have to work for your salvation. And I was kind of like wrestling inside, because I could feel the Holy Ghost saying, Wendy, give her the magazine. And I'm arguing with God, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I should. And he just kept, give her the magazine, Wendy. And I'm like, okay, God, and this is one of those things I do have to be extremely careful, as far as passengers go, who I give saved magazine to, which, I mean, I always keep, fell down underneath my seat. I always keep a copy of it up front with me. So there it is, saved magazine. I always keep a copy up front with me, so that if I am prompted to give it to someone, then it's like readily accessible to me. And so I submitted to the Lord. When I pulled up to her hotel, I told her, this is for you, because you are a believer, like I am. I said, I think this will really, really bless you. And she thanked me and got out of the car. And so that was my first encounter last week. And these are the times, when I'm just praying, Lord, send people my way that, even, well, there was actually 3, because yesterday I took a man to the airport, and he was really, really apprehensive. Flying just always makes him nervous. And so kind of in a lighthearted manner, I said, well, I'll definitely, keep you in prayer, that, God will protect you and protect the plane. And I said, and I could tell just by his demeanor, that he was very open and appreciative. And he's like, oh, thank you so much. And we kind of, laughed about it. And so I just said, Lord, well, I don't remember exactly what I said, but it was something to the effect of, Lord, protect this man and his flight, and let there be no turbulence, and protect his nerves, help him not to be anxious as he's flying. And I said, amen, and he really appreciated that. And that was like a real like easygoing, not like a whole lot of pressure, but a way to turn the conversation around to the Lord. But the one that really, really struck me was Saturday. I picked up a young man, and he couldn't have been 18. But I went ahead and I picked him up. And I noticed right away that he was going to the same skating rink that my youngest son, Jonathan, works at. And I said, my youngest son works there at the skating rink. And I said, are you going just for a skating session? And he's like, no, I work there. And then I described, because Jonathan has like really curly hair, and he's like, it's like all poofed up, he's like wanting to let it grow into dread stuff. And so all I had to do is describe, Johnny Mitchell. I said, he's got the big curly hair, and the look on his face. He's like, you're Johnny's mom? And I said, yeah. I said, just call me Uber Mom, because I've joked with Jonathan, that when I do take kids, to school, or pick them up from like the high school, I just say, just call me Uber Mom. And then he started asking me questions, and he's like, and what did he say? He said, He's like, don't you do like a Christian radio show or something like that? I said, yeah. I said, I have a YouTube channel that I join with other believers, and we talk about the Bible, doctrine, just talking about Jesus and stuff, and then he goes, "Aren't you Jewish?" And and at this point, I didn't know that this young man's Jewish, but I should have gotten the hint because his name was Baruch, and that is a Jewish name. And I'm looking at, okay, this is a kid that's friends with my youngest son, and he's either heard things from Johnny about his mom being, a strong Christian, and does her YouTube channel and stuff, and now I lost what I was going to say. But I told him, I said, well, I said, yes, I am. I said, but before I found out that I was Jewish, I said I was always raised Christian. And he's like, well, have you always known? And I said, well, no, that I did my DNA, which, goes back to my mother's line. And then I said, we did my dad's DNA, and his was the one that was really, I guess you would say, predominant. And I explained, that it went back to the line of Aaron. And see, at this point, I'm thinking he doesn't know anything about Jewish things. And so I explained, that they were the ones that they, Aaron's line, the Levitical priesthood, they're the only ones that, could minister in the temple and in the sanctuary and stuff. And then it kind of hit me, his name. And I said, "Are you Jewish?" And he's like, yeah, I am. He's like, my name means, I think he said, blessed or something like that. And I was like, oh wow, okay. And so then I realized he knows at least a good amount of his Jewish history. And and then he was asking me, he asked me, so what do you think about the people who killed Jesus? And I'm like, I'm praying to myself. I'm like, Lord, you got to give me the word. You got to help me here, because I'm kind of like, it put me on the spot, and I didn't have anything rehearsed. And I'm like, well, and I explained, that I was in the Hebrew roots, but that, I'm not in that, even though, yes, I'm Jewish in that regard. But I said, you can be Christian and not lose your, what did I word it? I said something like, you can be Jewish and not lose your heritage. I think I said I worded it something like that. And I said, that I believe that Jesus is God in the flesh, and that, he died for our sins. And, because we can't save ourselves, that there's nothing in and of us, through us, that is any kind of righteous, that God, the Bible says that, any good that we think that we can do, God sees it as just dirty rags. And then he asked, so what do you think about, the people that killed Jesus? And I said, Jesus willingly went to the cross and died for us. I worded it, just something simple like that. I said, yes, the Jews, had an unfair trial, and yes, the Romans are the ones that actually nailed him to the stake. But I said Jesus went willingly to the cross, because that's the only way of salvation. And then I asked him, I thought, okay, I'm usually not bold like this with passengers, but this is a friend of my son. And he had heard Well, see what was interesting, and this is when at times I think that, when I'm at home doing, like in the past when I've done my YouTube videos and stuff. Yes, Jonathan has had friends over to the house when I've gone live, and I think sometimes I think that, you know, does anything that I say, does it get through? Well, this young man had spent the night, and Jonathan has friends spend the night all the time. I can't keep track of, all his friends that spends the night between him and Jordan. But he said that he got woke up one morning because I was doing a video, and of course I couldn't tell you what I was talking about, but what do I always talk about in my videos? I'm talking about Jesus Christ. And it appeared that he was listening to some of what I was saying, because he was trying to figure out, what was going on. And Jonathan must have said, oh, my mom, does like radio shows or something like that, because, he was asking me about that. And I kind of laughed, and I said, yeah, I said, I have a really loud mouth. I said, people on the other side of the house can hear me when I'm doing videos. And he wasn't, offended or anything because he got woke up. He was just trying to figure out, what I'm talking about, what's going on. And so then I came right out and I asked him, I said, okay, you're Jewish. I said, so what do you know about Jesus? What is your thinking about Jesus? And he basically gave the answer that probably any Jewish person would give that doesn't know anything about Jesus or has heard very little about Jesus. That he was a good man, did a lot of good things. And at that point, we were almost to the skating rink because he's going to work. And so immediately, I mean, I didn't have to argue with God on this one. I just knew. And so I did tell him that, after he reads this, if he would have any questions, that I am always available to talk with him. But I said, questions that you might have about, who Jesus is, I said, they'll be answered in here. And so he took it, and he's thinking he's got to give it back to me. And he's like, well, I can probably, get with Johnny. And I was like, no. I said, I give these away. I know the man that puts these magazines out. I said, I help support his ministry. I said, that's yours. You take it and you read it. And if you have any questions, I am always available to talk to you. And it was a good ride. And he tipped me, and that's like besides the point. But as I was driving away, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for this young man, because he's probably 16 or 17 years old. And he's Jewish, but they're not religious Jews, if that makes sense. And so I would ask those of you that would pray, his name is Baruch, pray for Baruch's salvation, that that number one, that he's going to read this and that he will get to know his Messiah, because Jesus, well, and he said, well, I think Jesus was Jewish. And I said, yes, he was Jewish. And so he needs that intimate relationship with his Messiah, who's my Messiah, who's the Gentiles' Messiah, who's every nation's Messiah. And so just wanted to share that. Keep Baruch in prayer, please, that he will come to to salvation in Jesus Christ. And and I told him, I said, so what do you, because he had told me he was he was Jewish, and what his name meant. And I said, so what are your thoughts about Jesus, Yeshua? And he's like, Yeshua? And I said, yeah. I said Yeshua is just the Hebrew name for Jesus. And then that's when he told me basically the information that he knows about Jesus. And so my hope is that he did go home and read this. And I don't know anything about his family, but maybe they'll read it too. Okay. So God's using me, and I'm nothing. I'm a nobody. I'm just willing to be used. And that's why God will use you where you're at, whatever job he has placed you in, whether you're cleaning toilets as a janitor, or you're flipping burgers at McDonald's or Burger King. Wherever you're at, God's going to use you to get the gospel to those who desperately need it. So that's what I wanted to share this morning. But I do have to get going. Tomorrow I'm going out of town. Tomorrow's my birthday. I'm going to be 49. I feel like, my mind doesn't feel like I'm 49, but boy, my body does. I've got arthritis and, aches and pains and whatnot. Thank you, Celine. Thank you, sister. I don't know how to reply to you guys when I'm just on my phone. I don't see a way that I can type in. So I'll just say hi to you. I see that you're commenting, but and it doesn't matter how old you are. God will use a 2-year-old. God will use a 5-year-old to give his message of salvation. God will use you no matter how old you are, no matter what status in life you are in. God will use you. Yep, you're correct. God uses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And so never, never, never think that God can't use me. I'm just a nothing, a nobody. I'm just a janitor. How can God use a janitor? Well, look at Moses. When Moses fled after he killed the Egyptian, Moses herded sheep for 40 years. And during that time, God was preparing him to lead the children of Israel out of bondage. Moses didn't have verbal etiquette. He probably stammered. But yet God used him. And Moses was no different than you or I. He had anger issues that he had to deal with. He sinned in his flesh just like you and I sin in our flesh. But you allow yourself to be used where you're at, remaining humble. God will work mightily in your life. I want to share one song with you guys. Let me find it here. Okay. Let me just go. Because we need a song to close us out of just how amazing Jesus Christ is. show you the video. This is Amazing Grace, My Chains Are Gone by BYU Noteworthy. I believe it's a university chorus that sings this. Just a gorgeous song.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost, but now I'm found.
Just a gorgeous, gorgeous song.
Was blind, but now I see. Through countless dangers, doubts, and fears, I have already God's grace hath brought me safely here, and grace will lead me home. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior's ransomed me, and I got His mercy reign, unending love, amazing grace. His guiding hand shall be my stay, His strength with me I stumble day by day, He shall not leave my side. My chains are gone, I've been set
That's beautiful.
free. My God, my Savior's ransomed me, and I got His mercy reign, unending love, amazing grace. This earth will one day melt like snow. The sun refused to shine, yet God who sent me here below will be forever mine. He'll be forever mine.
Just a gorgeous, gorgeous rendition of Amazing Grace. And again, pray for this young man, Baruch, a Jewish young man, a teenager, that he will read the magazine that I gave him, and that he will come to salvation in Jesus Christ. And my hope is I'll get a message from my son saying, hey, Baruch wants to talk to you, Mom. So just keep everything in prayer. Pray for each other, that God will use each other in our places of work to bring the gospel. So, all right, guys, you all take care. I won't, I probably won't be joining this Wednesday because I'm going out of town tomorrow, like I said, for my birthday. Coming back Wednesday, but it's usually like late Wednesday afternoon. So, should be able to join this next Sunday. I had kind of like an emergency yesterday with my sister. Had to meet her at the emergency room. She's fine. She panics. She panics. But they did blood work. They took a urinalysis. Everything's fine. She's getting well from the bladder and kidney infection. But thank you for those who kept her in prayer. She just got, the doctor said, it's probably just some inflammation. That's why she's still having, some pain and stuff. So, but she's fine. I just wasn't able to join yesterday because I did have to meet up at the emergency room with her. So, all right, guys, you take care, and I'll see you on Ted's, probably not till next Sunday. If I would get home early enough on Wednesday, I will try to join, but otherwise I will see you guys next Sunday. Take care. God bless.